Hey everyone, haven't made a video in a few weeks, got a little bit slack, but I've ordered a few new memory cards for my camera recently, so I've got a bit more space to play around with. I've just been reorganising all my files and stuff so that I could record some things. I've got a couple of ideas for videos that I want to make. I've got a couple more textbook reviews that I'd like to do. I just got a few videos that I'm thinking about making, but as it had been a few weeks since I'd put anything up and I didn't want it to seem like I'd disappeared yet again, I thought I'd make a quick video today just sort of showing you guys where I study, the environment that I like to keep for myself while I'm studying Japanese, and yeah, so take a look. So this is my workspace. It's sort of midday on a weekday afternoon. Got my laptop out. As you can see on the screen there, I've been working on my JLPT N2 vocab. I'm going to take the JLPT N2 this December. Applications don't actually open till mid-August, but I'm going to apply for that. I did actually take the N2 once before, which was just before I left Japan. I actually made a video about it, but because it was literally a couple of weeks before I left Japan, I never actually ended up getting hold of my results, so I have no idea whether I passed that or not. So I'm going to retake that. I usually have a couple of textbooks to hand. Got my tablet there, my Sony tablet, which I use for memorize and things like that on the go when I don't want to sit up at my desk. So I usually have a few notepads out. I've got one here which I use for, probably out of focus a little bit, but I use that one for new vocab that I've come across while I'm reading the news and doing bits and pieces. Yeah, some really useful stuff on here. You've got the Pacific Rim, Kantai Heiyo, and things like that. That's another notepad for various bits and pieces that I jot down through the day. And then I've also got here a grammar notebook, which I've been taking grammar notes from this. Recently I've been working my way back through an integrated approach to intermediate Japanese, which I have done a video review of if anyone's interested in that. Look it up on my channel. And I've been working through that. I've been working through bits of grammar on JGram, basically trying to work on my N2 grammar, cover things that I've forgotten. Down next to my desk you've got my two bookcases. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a reading problem, but down here is where I keep most of my Japanese language study aids. Got my beginner's Japanese dictionary from way back when. I've got my kanji learner's dictionary, my dictionary of Japanese grammar, my Heisig books. I've done video reviews on most of those things. I might do the Heisig before too long, because I've got a few opinions on that. But that's where I keep most of those. I've got some Japanese language books down here. Quite a collection, but they're all sort of quite academic. Quite a lot of it's quite dry. But an old lecturer of mine who was retiring when I was at university basically gave all of these away first come first serve, so I just sort of grabbed a few in the hope that it might help my Japanese learning, but I haven't read much of many of them because they're yeah, quite dry. Although I do have in the middle here one of my favourite books in the world. Pick it back up. Norway no Mori, or Norwegian Wood, which many of you may know is a novel by Haruki Murakami, which is one of the first novels. I read it in English first, and I've read most of it in Japanese, although that's only the first volume. One of the first books I read by a Japanese author. And then if you come up beyond that, you can see that my reading problem continues. Just a few books there. There's actually more piles behind it. This is what I do in my spare time when I'm not studying Japanese and making videos or working. But basically next to that, some old posters that I've had up on my wall for years. This is an idea I got off Danny Chu, if any of you ever read Danny Chu's blog. He does some fantastic photography work, well, amateur photography of Japan and Tokyo, but I remember reading in one of his blogs about how he studied Japanese when he grew up. He used to make these posters of kanji and put them all over the walls of his house, so I spent one afternoon doing that, and there's more behind there, you can't really see it because the books covered it up, making this one's the fifth one, fifth grade kyoiku kanji, so the basic kanji that you learn in school, the elementary school kanji that you learn up to 6th grade. Yeah, so those are across the walls of my house. But yeah, that's sort of my study area. I do most of my work up here. I've also got my my monitor there, just set across from my my desk and on top of my bookshelf, which I used to, you could put Japanese language shows on there, things like that, things for full immersion. So this is where I like to be when I'm studying. I quite often put the Japanese news, the NHK podcast on my laptop while I'm working, and yeah, so I can sort of immerse myself as much as possible while still sitting in my bedroom in the south of England. So yeah, there are ways around not being in Japan when you're studying Japanese, but this is how I like to set myself up when I'm working. Yeah, so that's my room. That's where I study. This is where I do most of my work. I do try and mix it up a bit now and then. I think if you stay and you study in the same place all the time, it can get a bit stale. When I was at university, sometimes I'd study at my desk in my room. Sometimes I'd study in the library. I'd go here and there. Although the first couple of years, the houses that I lived in, the student houses that I lived in, the desks were so tiny and so cramped, like I pretty much never studied in my room. Like if you ever saw my second year house, it's pretty much my room. Although the house itself was quite modern and quite nice, my room was the smallest room in the house, and it was basically the size of 2 beds, 2 single beds. The length was literally the length of 1 single bed. My bed touched both ends of the room, and then you had just enough room next to the bed for a desk, and the chair basically sat in the little gap between the bed and the desk, and it was tiny. I even had to have my wardrobe on the outside of the room, so surprisingly enough, in that year I'd spent most of my time at the library, but usually I tried to mix things up and study in different places at different times just to sort of keep the environment fresh. So I do that sometimes now. Sometimes I just go downstairs and read a bit of Japanese downstairs, or take my laptop or tablet downstairs and do my memorize or Anki or whatever somewhere else. But most of the time I like to do it up here. It's quiet upstairs, keeps me out of the way. I don't have the hustle and bustle of everyone else in the house distracting me. I can put on my headphones, and it's just, I find I can get a lot of work done. I quite happily sit up here for 5-6 hours straight and just get work done. Yeah, so that's my room. That's what's outside of this box. I will put a link up for the video review that I did of Integrated Approach to Intermediate Japanese that you saw in the video. So if you're interested in watching that, feel free to. It's one of my older video reviews, so the quality's not great, but hopefully there's some useful information in there. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Please let me know, where you like to study, how you study your Japanese, and what tips and tricks you have, and I'll catch you in the next video.